All right, I'm speaking with Steve Gilliland. It is September 26th, 2017. So, Steve, can you give me a brief, maybe the elevator pitch of your business?
The elevator pitch of my business is I break it into really two areas, and that's speaking and product sales. I don't try to monetize the business like some speakers, and what I mean by that is I'm not interested in coaching, I'm not interested in consulting, additional training, etc. I guess you would consider me the purest of keynote speakers. I'll speak about 120 times annually. I've been doing that for probably consistently the last 10 years, and it's all keynote speeches.
Great, okay. And so what's your keynote on? Would you say it's motivation, or what would you say your talk is on?
Well, I'd say, motivation, inspiration, and a lot about just personal development, just, how to, keep positive. So, I've got really what makes me unique, I believe, is the fact that I think one of the critical mistakes that some speakers make is that they've got way too many topics, or keynote speakers only have, back in the day of the music industry, it was called the one-hit wonder. They only have one, what you call a signature presentation. I, on the other hand, have two signature presentations. One is Enjoy the Ride, and one is Making a Difference. Enjoy the Ride is about the trip, the true joy of life's in the trip, whereas Making a Difference is about purpose and passion and pride and the difference that we make, not just as people, but how organizations make that difference.
Okay. I'm just writing if you hear some silence. So do you focus across industries, right? You don't focus in a given industry like pharma?
No. If you go to my website and look, you're going to see probably 50 different industries. And, when I get into an industry, for example, Association of Legal Administrators, the American Trucking Association, for example, if you speak at a trucking association in Illinois, you know that there's 49 other states. So I will capitalize on that, and I'll market myself into the other trucking associations. I mean, cut a deal maybe. So while I don't go into specific, he's a speaker in healthcare, he's a speaker in education, I go across the board. But if I hit a hot industry, then I capitalize on it.
And so you mentioned about the local state association or the state association rather than the national conference. Do the state associations pay?
Yes. I mean, their budgets are different depending on the size of the association, depending on the sponsorships, depending on how many vendors support their annual meeting. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes in our industry, is that everybody has an opinion, and usually the people that are giving the opinions don't know what they're talking about. Never experienced it.
Yeah.
It's a great example. When I first got into this industry, somebody said there's no money in education. You're not going to be speaking to schools. And yet, if you look at my client list, I've spoke to over 100 schools, and many of them have had my full fee. So you got to be very careful, because it's like anything else. You get one no, do you stop selling? Or if you get two no's, or do you realize that there are people out there that actually will buy? And there are, again, every industry. So is it the same amount? No, and it goes back to what I said. It all depends on who's the executive director, who's aggressive, who has enough money. I just did an event with Willie Jolly and two other speakers. There were four of us at an ALA meeting, Association of Legal Administrators in Boston, and they had enough money for four speakers. And most of those chapters can barely have enough money for one speaker.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yep. Okay. So if you think of your revenue as a percent, as it has to do with keynotes, and you said products, what would it be? It would be like 90% keynotes, or
80-20. 80 speaking revenue, 20 product.
And the product is primarily books?
Books, CDs, DVDs, audiobooks.
Okay. And what percent is audiobooks?
I would say right now it's probably still 85-15, 85 book, 15% audiobook.
So that's so do you call the audiobooks the CDs and the DVDs?
No, CDs are presentations. Audiobook is an audiobook. An audiobook is, me reading the book on audio.
And so
The CD is me live speaking on stage.
okay, and so the CD is you presenting, the DVD or the DVDs and the CDs are you presenting, right?
Correct.
So 20% is products, books, DVDs, and the audiobooks. I'm just asking the audiobooks because it's I don't know if it's new, old, or whatever. But anyway, so of the 20%, what percent is the audiobooks?
Of the 20%, what percent is the audiobook?
Yeah, or what percent of your total revenue is audiobooks?
Well, I can't say total revenue, but 15% of my product revenue is audio.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read this just so I make sure it's the same for all the interviews. So we're trying to study best practice defined as having a CSP in a full-time speaking business whose revenue over 3 of the last 5 years averages $100,000 per year. Does that describe you and your business?
Well, yeah, I'm over 100,000. I've done over 1 million in speaking fees for the last 8 years.
Oh, perfect. Okay, 1 million over last 8 years. Okay, we'll talk more about revenue later. So, yeah. So anyway, so this is yes. When did your
just so you know, before I forget and we don't readdress this, the reason why I said it the way I did is not to be bragging, but more in line with NSA has what's called the $1 Million Speakers Group.
Yes.
Okay? Well, 90% of the people, 90%, I'm going to say people, I'm not even going to say speakers, 90% of the people in the $1 Million Speakers Group are not keynote speakers. They get over $1 million based on a variety of other revenue streams. So I'm a rare bird because anytime you look at the list of people sitting in that room, they've monetized and they've capitalized in just different areas.
Yeah, actually, the original objective of this research was to interview CPAEs who were members of the $1 Million Group. And Brian said, no, let's not do that because of your exact reason, that most of those people he felt, I wasn't familiar with the group, most of those people he felt were not speakers, okay, per se. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, they're good business people and entrepreneurs, but they're not speakers.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. When did you get your first speech, paid or unpaid? Like what year?
April 17th, 1999.
Oh, that's great. And was that paid?
$1,500 plus expenses.
Okay. And then how many years did it take you until you hit $100,000 a year in gross revenue?
3.
And what was your first paid speech on?
That was on leadership.
And why did you speak on that?
It was a subject that, I had come out, my background was, out of a management position in corporate America, and, it was a subject that I felt comfortable with. And I had I spoke for a company that wasn't paid, and somebody was there and heard me and said, hey, could you do this for us? And I said, yes.
So you, what were you before April, or I mean, who did you work for? What position did you have?
I worked for a greeting card company, and I was their director of sales and marketing.
Okay. And then, so let's see. So you gave an unpaid speech in about what year? That first unpaid speech.
I don't even know if it's fair to say that. I was doing a lot of training in terms of helping out the HR department of our company. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so you were doing a lot of speeches before.
I would call them speeches. I would call them more of some presentation.
Okay.
I think speeches is, yeah.
As part of your job.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of saying it. Yes,
Okay, all right.
Job.
And how long were you working for that greeting? How long did you work for that greeting card company?
11 years.
Perfect. Okay, let me just see here. So, when did you go off on your own, full time?
January 1999.
Okay. So what would you do today to land those early speaking jobs faster?
What would I do today?
Yeah, if you were starting a speaking business today, what would you do to land those early speaking jobs faster?
Honestly, I would, I always look and say, I duplicate patterns of excellence. So for me, the first thing I'm going to do is find out exactly what is critical. What do I need to support anything that I'm going to say about myself? And I think the best advice that I've ever given speakers is, number one, you have got to have, hands down, you've got to have video. You've got to have something they're going to watch. They need to see you in action. So your preview video is extremely important, and your website. And your website is extremely important because now with the internet age, today the relevancy of this interview is they got to have a website that meeting planners will come to that hire speakers and say, wow, this person is just this got great content. This is what we need. And then you watch the person say, gee, he's got great energy. He's funny. He's a really good guy. So in that scenario, my personality, if I went back, I would have found out sooner. I mean, I was a marketing guy, so I started to market myself. And number one, I didn't know who I was marketing to. Number two, I didn't know the people I was marketing to what they were looking for. What exactly were they looking for? And I will make a statement, and that is this: most speakers, your bio is not that. Your bio is important, but it's so far down on the ladder. The first thing I see people, they'll do a one sheet, and I'll see the picture. People don't hire pictures, and they'll write their bio. People don't hire bios. People hire topic, content, and delivery. What's in it for them? What's their people going to get? And that's the problem. Is I would say today, I would market to a specific group. And again, associations are big. Associations hire speakers. Not every company has meetings and hires speakers, but associations. You can name it, the lamp association, name the industry, plumbing. You just name the industry, there's an association for it, and they're going to hire speakers for their events. A lot of targeted associations, hard and heavy.
Okay. Let's see here. I can skip down some of these. So I'll tell you what. Let me skip to the revenue questions. Okay. So I'm looking at a graph here, and on the horizontal axis there are years from 1 to 20, and on the vertical axis it's gross revenue. And so if you think of 1999, let's see, in 1999, and then when was the first year, what was the gross speaking revenue in 1999? Do you remember about, was it 5,000, 100,000?
Yeah, let me give the exact.
Oh, thanks.
Let me pull it up here.
And I appreciate you trying to be honest, by the way.
Revenue growth. Revenue growth reason why I just sent this to somebody in my company and said, annual revenue by fee and year. Here it is. Annual revenue in 1999 to date. Okay. 1999, 92,399.
Okay, wait a minute, hold on. In 1999, it was what?
92,399.
92,000. Okay. And in 2000?
You'll have to correct what I said because I thought it was 3 years, but 248,399.
So in 2000, it's 240,000. We can round is fine. 240.
Say 250.
250, and then 01.
237.
237 and 02.
297.
297. Keep going. 3.
337.
4.
493.
5.
222.
6.
378.
7.
702.
Wow. 8.
1.1 million.
9.
1 million.
10.
1.1.
11.
1.
12.
1.2.
13.
1.2.
And 14.
1.2.
Okay, keep going. 15
1.3.
and 16.
1.3.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for sharing that. This will be confidential. So first of all, how did you get 92 your first year?
Well, again, I'm a marketing person, so I think for me, the biggest thing, and I'm going to say this since you're an independent person, the biggest mistake that speakers make in our industry is they listen to other speakers who are not marketing people. They are people that maybe have a God-given gift on stage that, and I hate to say it this way, I mean, they're hired because of their ability on stage, which I know that sounds like, well, that wouldn't anybody hire them. No, it's the combination of how good you are on stage and how good you are as a sales and marketer. And I was an extraordinary marketing person, so, I'll just put it this way. Back when I didn't have a pot to pee in, I got credit cards, and I subsidized my business on credit cards. And I was not afraid to rack up $10,000 on a credit card to pay for printing and postage. And, so back in the day, I was aggressive. And I knew this because, the seminar companies like National Seminars, Skill Path, Fred Pryor, that was their key. They would market, spend a lot of money just to put butts in seats. And I realized that it was that touch, it was those impressions. So while some speakers were mailing out maybe 50 pieces, I was mailing out 50,000 pieces. Well, I was aggressive, but I also I know the marketing game. Marketing's repetition. You've got to get yourself in front of them, and I was putting some pretty awesome, and this is back before the internet was the internet, I was putting out some pretty awesome materials. And so if you received this from me, you were interested. You were impressed.
So how you got the 92? So what did you spend in marketing in 99?
Probably $50,000. And there lies the tale. There lies the secret. So since this is confidential, again, I'll make another statement.
Yep.
Most people entering this industry are undercapitalized.
Of course, most businesses are.
But in this one, you've got to be capitalized. You absolutely, unequivocally have got to have money to spend to market yourself. And most aren't willing to do it.
Okay, we're gonna get to what they should do in a second. Okay, let's just get to what you did. So the way you got from 92 to 250 was how in 1 year?
Number one, I hired a woman, and I posted the position as sales. I didn't need an assistant. I didn't need somebody to answer the phone. While that person would do that, I was specifically interested. I wanted a salesperson, somebody that could sell, somebody that could close, somebody that, and I made this comment a few years ago in the industry, and I don't know if people listen to, but I said, when you hire your first employee as a speaker, you've got to hire a salesperson. And that was the key. And I had taken my own money, savings, and I had set aside that first year $30,000 to pay this person of savings. It was free and clear. I said, okay, I got money over here. This is what I'm going to pay this person.
And what was the call list that they used?
Well, the call list was the targets that first of all, I went after some specific industries. I went after education. I went after healthcare. And I created some really, and again, some of these things don't even exist today in my world. But I had a program called Teaching with Passion, and and again, you can call it embellish, you can call it whatever you want. But I was the foremost and most requested speaker, for staff development days. That was self-proclaimed. But if you got a full color piece and it was, Teaching with Passion, and you were going to have staff development, and the key was, now just think about this. I'm targeting maybe, let's say I target all the schools in Texas, the school district, not schools, school districts. Okay, so I'm sending out a couple of thousand pieces. But the key was I had Marcia, who I'd hired, she's going to follow up. Now, the odds are that if you send out 2,000 pieces and she makes 2,000 phone calls, the odds are you're going to get some hits. So the next question would be, and I'm not being a smart butt, how many speakers do that? I will bet you 0.
So hold on, so 1 second. So your process was you mailed them something. So these are going to who? The school principal? Who are they going to?
This would go to the school superintendent in that district, because the school district is run by the superintendent. The superintendent has an assistant superintendent, and then there are principals, because the district may have 6 high schools. It may have several elementary schools.
So you sent a mail piece. Was it a postcard or a letter or?
No, it was a full brochure, 4 pages, in a 9x12 envelope. Probably back in the day, it would cost 90 cents.
Yeah. And then to mail it and.
Well, you figure $2,000 to mail it. Back in the day, it might have been $200 or $300. You figure I'm going to have probably $3,000 in the piece. But if it brings me 5 engagements at $5,000 a piece.
No, I'm with you. I'm a marketing professor. Okay. All right. Okay. So you did the mail piece, then you did the salesperson did a follow-up phone call, and
we called it a discovery call. I said you're going to make 2,000 discovery calls. A lot of times, salespeople, they call it, they're going to qualify. Call it whatever you want, tomato. But we were going to discover, do they hire speakers for their staff development? When is their staff development? Do they have a convocation? Does each school have their own? Does each high school have their own opening for their teachers? We started to garner a lot of information. And the other thing that we did is, and I'll just give you, that in Texas, we got a hold of the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals. Then we got a hold of TEPSA, the Texas Elementary Secondary Principals Association. And we asked them if they had an annual conference, which both of them did. We asked them if they had a trade show, which they said both of them did. And then I said, I'm willing to do 2 breakout sessions for free if you will let me set up a 10-foot booth at your trade show. Both of them said yes. Now you can see where the $92,000 came from. Because the rest was history, because once I got down there in June, I did 2 workshops. The principals that were attending loved me. Then they came on the trade show floor. We talked. They said, gosh, would you happen to have an opening in August? And of course I played it up and said, wow, well that's just a few months away. I had all openings.
Okay, all right.
We started to book. Again, Marcia, I had flown her in because I knew that, divide and conquer. She could be talking to somebody while I was, and she was a super salesperson.
How did you hire her?
Again, I put an ad. I put again, sounds a little archaic, but that's the way we used to do it. I put an ad in the Pittsburgh Press, the Pittsburgh Business Times, and it was for a salesperson.
Okay, so just reviewing back. So the jump from... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, salary plus bonus.
What did you say?
I paid her salary plus bonus.
So you paid her 30 plus what was the bonus? What did the bonus end up being?
She got 10% of everything she booked.
Okay. So if we would say from 92 to 250, you would attribute that to your salesperson.
Exactly, in our processes. And I'm big in processes. So we had created processes that, here's the process that we're going to do. And once I got booked, and that's the difference with me too, once I get booked into an event, there's a very elaborate process that I do before the event. There's an elaborate process that I do. We call it post-program follow-up. There's several things that I do after an event. And those secrets after the event, were something that I was garnering more business. Just like referrals. I get lots of referrals because I asked for them.
So let's talk about, let's talk about the referrals. How do you manage that? How do you do that?
Okay, first of all, whoever hired me, I'm talking to them at the event saying, I'm going to ask you for a referral. And I really would appreciate you giving me one. If you give me one, you got two options: a $500 Visa gift card if it confirms, or a $500 check written to the charity of your choice. I said, it's worth your while to do it, but I said, and I always ask for the order, so I was like, I want that. Then in the back of the room, we have the same thing that we offer anybody. Do you know somebody who hires speakers? We have a tent card, and then we have information there. We have a self-addressed stamped envelope, postcard. All they got to do is mail it in.
Wait a minute, hold on. So you do two things. Number one, you ask the person who hired you, and number two, you have the card on the table in the back.
Yes, because if there's 300 attendees in that meeting, you know darn well somebody in there knows somebody that hires speakers. If not, spouse or their own company.
Okay. So what else do you do to cultivate the referral? So then after the event, what do you do?
So then after the event, I send out an email to the meeting planner, and that email to the meeting planner, the subject line is quick question. And I simply ask a simple, quick question. And for example, I sent one out yesterday. I finished speaking at a trucking association, and I simply said, Dear Matt, in addition to the Illinois Trucking Association and TAEC, are you a member of any other state, regional, or national associations? If so, I would appreciate you sharing that, and if you know the contact information. I get, 300 a year.
Wow.
300 referrals a year just on that. And I call it my quick question email.
And how long after the event do you send the follow-up email?
Next day.
Okay. And then you send an email. So do you send anything else to cultivate the referrals?
Hang on a second. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead.
Can I call you right back at this number?
Sure.
I just need.
You got it.
I got a situation.
You got it.